Hello there, fellow viewers, it's me, Bohemia again. I know I just posted one of my videos, so I'm kind of still experimenting, and I thought it would be nice to those of you out there who enjoy reading, such as me. So, today I've got some of my favourite books by Roger Hargreaves. They're suitable for all ages. I guarantee you'll really like them, because I do. The Mr. Men books! There's a lot. And today, I'm going to be reading to you, nice one to start us off, Mr. Happy. I hope you enjoy. Mr. Happy by Roger Hargreaves. On the other side of the world, where the sun shines hotter than here, and where the trees are 100 feet tall, there is a country called Happy Land. As you might very well expect, everybody who lives in this happy land is as happy as the day is long. Wherever you go, you see smiling faces all around. It's such a happy place that even the flowers seem to smile in Happy Land. And as well as all the people being happy, all the animals in Happy Land are happy too. If you've never seen a mouse smile, or a cat, or a dog, or even a worm, go to Happy Land. This is a story about someone who lived there who happened to be called Mr. Happy. Mr. Happy was fat and brown and happy. He lived in a small cottage beside a lake at the foot of a mountain and close to a wood in Happy Land. There's his house. One day, while Mr. Happy was walking through the tall trees in those woods near his home, he came across something which was really rather extraordinary. It's him in the woods. There, in the trunk of one of the very tall trees, was a door. Not a very large door, but nevertheless a door. Certainly a door, a small, narrow, yellow door. Definitely a door. I wonder who lives here, thought Mr. Happy to himself, and he turned the handle of that small, narrow, yellow door. The door wasn't locked, and it swung open quite easily. Just inside the small, narrow, yellow door was a small, narrow, winding staircase leading downwards. Mr. Happy squeezed his rather large body through the rather thin doorway and began to walk down the stairs. The stairs went round and round and down and down and round and down and down and round. Eventually, after a long time, Mr. Happy reached the bottom of the staircase. He looked around and saw, there in front of him, another small, narrow door, but this one was red. Mr. Happy knocked on the door. "Who's there?" said a voice, a sad, squeaky sort of voice. "Who's there?" Mr. Happy pushed open the red door slowly, and there, sitting on a stool, was somebody who looked exactly like Mr. Happy, except they didn't look happy at all. In fact, he looked downright miserable. "Hello," said Mr. Happy. "I'm Mr. Happy." "Oh, you are indeed," sniffled the person, who looked a bit like Mr. Happy but wasn't. "Well, my name is Mr. Miserable, and I'm one of the most miserable person in the world." "Why are you so miserable?" asked Mr. Happy. "Because I am," replied Mr. Miserable. "How would you like to be happy like me?" asked Mr. Happy. "I'd give anything to be happy," said Mr. Miserable, "but I'm so miserable I don't think I could ever be happy. I don't think I could ever be happy, he added miserably. Mr. Happy made up his mind quickly. Follow me, he said. Where to? Asked Mr. Miserable. Don't argue, said Mr. Happy, and he went through the small, narrow, red door. Mr. Miserable hesitated and then followed. Up and up the winding staircase they went, up and round and up and round and up until they came out into the wood. Follow me, said Mr. Happy again, and they both set off through the woods back to Mr. Happy's cottage. Mr. Miserable stayed in Mr. Happy's cottage for quite some time, and during that time the most remarkable thing happened. Because he was living in Happyland, Mr. Miserable was ever so slowly stopped being miserable and started to be happy. His mouth stopped turning down the corners. And ever so slowly it started turning up at the corners. And eventually Mr. Miserable did something that he'd never done in his whole life. He smiled and then chuckled, which turned into a giggle, which became a laugh. A big, booming, hearty, huge, giant, large, enormous laugh. And Mr. Happy was so surprised that he started to laugh as well, and both of them laughed and laughed. They laughed until their sides hurt and their eyes watered. Mr. Miserable and Mr. Happy laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. They went outside and they still laughed. And because they were laughing so much, everybody who saw them started laughing as well. Even one of the birds in the tree started to laugh, and at the thought of somebody called Mr. Miserable, who just couldn't stop laughing. And that's really the end of the story, except to say that if you ever feel as miserable as Mr. Miserable had used to, you know exactly what to do, don't you? Just turn your mouth up at the corners. Go on. Thank you for listening along to the read. I hope you've enjoyed it. It might be nice to listen for a bedtime story if you're settling off to bed. If you don't want to read yourself. I just thought that Mr. Happy would be a nice way to start off reading. And although the books may seem quite small on their words, I think they're very enjoyable and a lot of people could like them. So thank you for watching my video. If you like it, please make sure you subscribe. Thank you. Bye.